Let me call them percentage of completion method PCM and completed contract method CCM. Okay. So these methods are applicable only in those situations where work spans for more than one accounting period. So for example, let's say you are constructing a bridge, you are constructing a multi-story building, or you are doing some oil exploration, such kind of stuff, where it is expected to span for more than one accounting period. There, either you can adopt your percentage of completion method, or you can adopt your completed contract method. Now, what do they say? Very simple, that here in completed contract, the entire recognition of revenue is in the year when the work gets completed. And percentage of completion, as the name itself suggests that in whatever percent you have continued the completed the work over the periods, in that percent we will recognize the revenue. So let's quickly
So
take
your
an
voice
example.
broke off. What did you say? CCM was? What did you say about CCM? When the project is completed.
Yeah, so when the project is completed, it is in that period we recognize the revenue. So that is called completed contract method. And if we recognize the revenue in the proportion in which you have done the work, we call the method as percentage of completion. So we'll see an example. We'll see some numbers for the same. Let us extend yesterday's example itself, and let us say that there is a contract. The contract is between, let's say, ONGC and let's say ONGC versus Government of Philippines, and the contract is for 5,000 crore rupees. Okay. Let us say this is how the contract went. So I'll give you some additional details. Okay. Let's say we are talking about year 1, year 2, and year 3. Excuse me. Percentage of work completed. Let's say in year 1, 30% of the work was done. Let's say by the end of year 2, 70% of the work was done. And by the end of year 3, let's say 100% work was done. And how did you spend money on this? Let's say you spent, let's say 200 crore rupees in the first year, and let's say 800 crore rupees in the second year, and let's say 1,200 crore rupees in third year. So to do the work. And how did you receive the money? Let's say, how did you receive receipt? Let's call it receipt. How did you receive the money? Let's say 100 crore was received in the first year. Let's say 400 crore was received in second year, and entire remaining 4,500 crore was received in third year. So this is how you receive the money. So this is how, let's say, the things happen. Let's say this is the year. Okay, these are the years, year 1, 2, and 3. If this is the situation, then how are you going to recognize revenue under method 1 versus method 2? So let me give the contrast to you. So completed contract method is very straightforward. So that I will do first. So let's say by this color I'm showing you completed contract method. So this is how we are going. What we are going to show. We are going to show sales minus expenses, and this is what is going to be profit. Under completed contract method in year 1, I will not show anything. No expenses, no revenue. Both of them are 0. In year 2, also in this method, completed contract, no sale, no expenses, everything 0. Straight away in year 3, I will show the entire revenue as revenue, 5,000, and entire expense as an expense. So let's add all of these things up. So what do we get? We get 1,000 here and 1,200 here. So 2,200. So subtract the entire expense of 2,200, and straight away you will say that this firm has made a profit of 2,800 crore rupees in year 3. This is how things would look if you would have adopted completed contract method. Very simple, that only in the year in which the work is completed, entire revenue and entire expense is recognized. That's what the name itself suggests. Let me contrast this to percentage of completion method then. So percentage of completion method is that in the percentage in which the work is completed, in that manner or in that proportion, I will recognize the revenue. Let us see that. So let's say I'm writing percentage of completion method in dark blue. So in year 1, how would I show the performance of the same company for the same performance? I would show that I'll say that 30% of the revenue should be recognized in year 1. Why? Because 30% work was done in that year. So what is my total revenue? Total revenue is 5,000. What is 30% of that? That is what we'll write here. So 30% of 5,000, we write 1,500 here. In year 2, how much work got completed? 70% work got completed. You already had done 30% up till here. So what was the contribution in the year 2? Total 40% addition happened in year 2. Fine. So from 30, you could bring it to 70. So addition of 40% happened in year 2. So that is how you will say that in year 2, I will recognize 40% of the revenue of the entire money. So what is the 40% of 5,000? Just 2,000 crore rupees. So I'll write revenue of 2,000. And the remaining amount, remaining 30% will be here. Why? Because from 70%, I could finish the work. I could bring it to 100%. So what was the contribution of year 3? The contribution of year 3 was remaining 30%. So the remaining 30% of this 5,000 will become revenue by this year. So 1,500 as revenue this year. Okay. So any questions as to how I will write revenue of the year 1, 2, and 3 under percentage of completion method? Very simple. That it is in the proportion in which we have done the work. Now comes the question, what should I subtract as an expense? Any opinion here? What should I subtract as an expense? What number should I write?
The cost of that year.
Cost of that year 200?
It will stay the same, yeah.
Or should I write 30% of the total? Should I write 30% of the total?
No, sir. Cost.
No, sir.
No,
Cost
sir.
of that year.
Why?
Percentage, sir.
Why?
So we are
30% cost incurred is 200.
Come again. My question is, okay, let me repeat the question for the rest of the class so that you understand what am I talking about. So my question is that when I am writing in the revenue, I am writing 30%. Should I not match it by my matching concept and say that 30% of cost should also be here?
Sir, costs are variable.
Cost
Costs are variable. Okay.
Sir, in this we take that pessimistic approach.
Pessimistic, okay.
Yeah,
so whichever is higher, are you saying that whichever is higher?
So yeah. So if the cost is realized, then we should take it rather than deferring it. Like that's what I think.
What is 30% of 2,200?
It will be to 660.
660. So should I write 660 or should I write 200 or should I write higher of the two?
Sir, can we say for 30% of work to be completed, we spent 200. So that's the cost.
Okay.
So I would say higher of the two.
so at the end you don't know the total cost that you'll incur by the
Okay.
end.
So that is the point. Well, before that, did you guys understand the 2-3 options that are available with us? The options are that should we write 200, should we write 660, or as somebody suggested that we should write the higher of the two. Why they might be suggesting higher of the two? Maybe they want to be extra conservative. Okay. Which of these should happen? We will always write 200. We will not write 660 at all. We will not even calculate 660. Why? Because if you look at the timeline, you would understand the answer to this question. Let's say this was my point. Okay, let me write it fresh. Let's say let me plot the things on timeline. Let's say this is where the work got started. This is end of year 1, end of year 2, and end of year 3. When are you preparing this income statement and balance sheet for this year? When are you preparing this information? It is at this point of time when first year has ended. That is when you are informing all the stakeholders that how much profit or loss you make, right? Now, on this point, would you be having the information that what are you going to spend in year 2 or 3? You wouldn't have, because only after the 3 years would have ended, I can write this information. I can create this table, right? That cost in year 1 was this much and year 2 was this much and so on and so forth. 1, 2, and 3. This can only happen after the fact that you have already spent it. So when you were in year 1, then this point would be a question mark and this point also would be a question mark. You don't know. That is the reason you will write 200. You will write the actual expense. Fine? Samajh aaya? And inherently, by writing 200 as an expense, inherently you are making an assumption that if I have spent 200,000 and I've completed the work 30%, then my total cost is also going to be in proportion. Whether it comes out to be a true assumption or not, it doesn't matter to you. Why? Because that is all that you can do. Point समझ में आया? That why are we writing 200? Otherwise, by matching concept, if we are writing 30% of the revenue, then we should have matched 30% of expense also, but we are not doing that. Why? We are not doing that because we don't even know the total expense. Okay, so we will say that 1,300 is profit in year 1. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Question, somebody is asking something.
So if you have an estimate for your yearly cost in that
Good
case,
question. Good question. So in fact, this part we will formally come back to in a bit. So what if we can estimate? Okay, so do we replace this in that situation? We'll come back to it. So let me finish the example first. So similarly here, what you will write 800 minus. Why? Because I said that actual cost should be subtracted. So let's subtract 800 from 2000, so 1200 of profit. And here also you will subtract the actual expense. So in third year, what did you spend? You spent 1200. So subtract 1200 and you are going to say that this firm made a profit of 300 crore rupees. And that is how your performance is going to look like. So your performance is going to look like that under one method, you are showing 0 profit in first year, 0 profit in second year, and 2,800 profit in third year. Under another method, for the same company, for the same activities, you are showing that the company has performed, is a profit-making company in year 1, 2, and 3. Now, this is another matter that if you do the total of all these numbers, the total comes out to be same in both methods. What is the total of 0, 0, and 2,800? 2,800. And what is the total of this, this, and this? Check. Is it 2,800? 1,300 plus 1,200 plus 300. What do you get? Same. So even though the total performance is same, over the methods, what has changed? Over the methods, the timing in which you are showing these profits has changed. So it's like if I wanted to plot the graph, all that has changed is the graph. But the total of all the individual points remains exactly same. That if I wanted to plot this method, my profit would look like 0 in first year, 0 in second year, and 2,800 in third year. That is under completed contract method. If I wanted to plot the performance under percentage of completion method, how it would look like? So in first year, 1,300, in second year, 1,200, and in third year, 300. So the performance would look something like this. For the same company, in one method, the performance is looking like this graph, and for the same company, in another method, performance is looking like this. And this is what is straight away an evidence of managerial discretion, that how big a role managerial discretion can play. That if you choose this method, this is what you will be showing to your shareholders. If you choose this method, this is what you will be showing to your shareholders. ठीक है, समझ आया? Now,
so just one question.
Yeah.
If
all the questions.
So
all the questions one by one. Yeah, go ahead.
so in the completed contract method, if for the first 2 years we're not recording anything, in the third year, once the contract is completed, we're recording the income and the expense. In the first 2 years, for the expenses that we actually have incurred, how will we record it?
Okay, so that was the initial question, rather related question. Basically, what will happen to this 200 that you have already spent in year 1? Do you see that I did not show anything as sale, nothing as expense? But still, on the ground, when you were completing 30% of the work, you would have already given up your 200 crore rupees. Where will it go is the question. Okay, anybody would want to attempt this? Where it will go, or where should it go? If I have said that it cannot go in sale or expense, so what can we do with it?
I'll just use it like an asset, a prepaid expense. Karke.
This will be used like an asset. So you guys remember that when I was introducing the word inventory, I would have said that inventory can be of 3 types. It can be raw material, it can be work in progress, or it can be finished goods. So what is work in progress? Work in progress means that you have spent something in it, but it is still not done. Okay, so this 200 crore rupees will sit with a similar name. Why did I use the word similar and not same? Because the names may be slightly different. Maybe you can call it work in progress project, or work in progress construction, or work in progress building, or whatever. But its nature will be same. It will sit in the asset side of my balance sheet. It will not enter the income statement until this year, until the year 3. In year 3, directly what I would say is that my work in progress would have, so from first year my work in progress is 200 crore rupees. From second year my work in progress would be 800 crore rupees further. So total 1000 crore rupees ka work in progress has been accumulated by the year of 3. And on top of that, you are spending 1200 further fresh. So total 1200 you add to it. So total you are spending 2200. So your inventory equivalent has become 2200. Now when you sell these things off, then this whatever you sell becomes your cost of goods sold. So this itself will become your cost of goods sold. ठीक है, समझ में आया? What we will do of that 200 and 800? It will sit in the balance sheet with the name of work in progress project or work in progress something. But it will be an asset for you. When you sell it off, then that asset will get converted into, in that particular year, when you sell it off, then that asset will get converted into cost of goods sold. Okay. That is about the inventory part. So similarly, somebody was asking that what do you do about the money received? Let's say some money may be received in advance or some money may be received later on.
So make a liability pre-received.
Yeah, so that part is also very straightforward. What we were discussing here is that you are saying that you did 30% of the work in year 2, in year 1. Now the money received can be equal to, greater than or less than this 30%. Why? Because our deal, let's say I do a deal with let's say Mishra, and let's say we enter into a contract wherein I am supposed to construct something for her, and let's say the work spans in this manner that in first year I did 30%, second year 70%, and third year 100%. Now it's not necessary, is what I'm saying. It's not necessary for us to make the payment in same proportion. Let's say our deal is that in first year you have to pay 50%, then she will have to pay me 50%. Let's say our deal is that entire money will be paid here, then she will pay entire money when entire work is completed. My point is that the money received can be different from this percentage. Now to whatever extent it is different, that difference will either create a prepaid, an account receivable if you have received less, or it will create an unearned revenue if you have received more. Unearned revenue if you have received more. For example, in this case, you have received only 100 crore rupees in first year. Whereas what was your revenue? Your revenue you are showing 1500. Fine. You are showing 1500, but did you receive this money? No, you are not receiving this money. Only 100 crore rupees you received. So what will happen to remaining 1400? Remaining 1400 will be your account receivable. So at the end of first year, you will show an account receivable of 1400. Ye samajh mein aaya? If you would have ended up receiving more, then the same thing would have become your unearned revenue. Okay. In year 2, what is the case? In year 2, what is the revenue? 2000 is the revenue. How much did you receive? 400. So there will be a 1600 ka addition to the account receivable in year 2. So I already had 1400 ka account receivable and now 1600 further. So by the end of year 2, I have total of 2000 ka account receivable. Sorry, 3000 ka. I don't know who adds like this. 3000 ka account receivable. Fine. Let's go to the last year and see what would have happened. By the third year, what do you say is your revenue? In the third year, your revenue is 1500, right? So from previous year's sale, that is from sale of year 1 and 2, you were supposed to recover from, let's say, from the seller, from the buyer, 3,000 crore rupees. And in this year, you made further sale of 1,500. So how much total you are supposed to recover? Total is 4,500 you are supposed to recover. And that is what the client is paying it to you. So what will happen? So in the third year, your sale was 1,500 and remaining additional 3,000 is for what? Remaining additional 3,000 is for the compensation for the previous sale for which the seller has, the buyer has not paid it yet. ठीक है, समझ आया? What will happen to the cost and also what will happen if I receive extra money or I receive less money? Any questions up till here?
Sir, in this case,
what
accounts
happens-
receivable will not be in current assets, right?
No, it will be in current assets. No problem at all. If you think for sure, if you know that our deal itself is that, let's say at the end of first year, this 1,400, you know that it is going to be received in third year, then you can keep it in non-current asset. No problem at all. But it will become a current asset at the end of year 2. So if you guys remember, what was the distinction for something being called a current versus non-current asset? That you expect it to be received in 1 year. कई बार क्या होता है in business, even you don't know when you will receive, but you expect them to receive in short period. So even at an expectation level, if you think that you are going to receive it in 1 year or less, then you classify them as current asset. If you know for sure that our deal itself is such that this money is going to come back to me only in third year, then you can classify it as non-current asset. Okay, so bottom line is that just because it is an account receivable doesn't make it necessary for you to treat it as current asset. Fine, समझ आया? Questions?
So could you just repeat the last part where in the third year you receive 4,500 and your
Yeah.
sale for that year was 1,500. So then finally, what do you do for the previous 2 years?
See, what was the total deal for? The total deal was for 5,000 crore rupees. Of this, the client had paid us 100 crore rupees in first year, 400 crore rupees in second year. What was left? This one was left.
4,500.
So they paid 4,500 in third year. So everything is done. Work also got completed in third year. So client does not know what method you are following. They don't even need to bother. Okay, let's say this is what client did. Now, when we started doing accounting, we found out that, you know what, 30% of the work got completed in first year, 40 additional happened in second year, and remaining 30% got completed in third year. So we went ahead and adopted a method called percentage of completion and recognized the revenue in that proportion. Now the problem here is that in the ratio in which we are recognizing the revenue, we are not getting our money in the same ratio. We recognized 1,500 as revenue in the first year, but what did you actually get? You got only 100 crore rupees. So this difference will create an account receivable. So that is why in first year there will be an account receivable of 1,400. In this example, even in second year there was an under recovery. You thought, or rather you said that you have done a revenue of 2,000 crore rupees, but how much did you get? You got only 400. So you got less. That means whatever was your account receivable, there should be an addition to account receivable for this under recovery. How much was the under recovery? 1,600. तो आपका पहले से you already had 1,400 का account receivable. This year there should be an addition to 1,600 का account receivable. That is how when the year 2 was ending, you would have seen in your balance sheet 3,000 ka account receivable so far. Now comes third year. Now when you are in third year, you said that we are eligible to further revenue of 1,500. So 3,000 we had not been paid yet so far, and in this year also we have done additional work for 1,500. So what is our eligibility? By our, I mean seller's eligibility. Seller wants 4,500. What should the client have paid? Client paid 4,500. So of this 4,500, 1,500 will be towards this year's sale and 3,000 will be towards previous year's account receivable. ठीक है, समझ आया? Questions?
So what happens is you make the accounts receivable 0, right?
Yes, you will bring the account receivable 0. Yes. Okay. So now that we have understood that what methods do, can we do a discussion about which one is better, which one to adopt and which one not to adopt, rather in what situation which one to adopt? Okay, any opinion that when do we adopt, or should we adopt PCM or should we adopt CCM? Which one should we adopt?
Sir, when we are sure of getting returns for percentage of work done, then we have to adopt that one. And if customer expects the work to be completed fully and no payment to be made for incomplete work or half
Okay,
of work,
good point. Basically, what Bharat is saying is that if our deal is such that, let's say, customer has said that unless the work is done 100%, I will not pay you anything, then adopt completed contract. So basically, what he is mentioning is that how you are receiving the payment should determine whether you go ahead with this method or that method. Okay, that's one opinion. Any other opinions? How come so many videos are turned off? Or is it me just having some technical issues? Yeah, put it on, put it on. Yeah. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Long term, if it is a long term project, we have to, I mean, the one who is providing the service have to get some profit, right? Sales revenue. So
Yes.
at that time,
So Vaishak, is not necessary. Let me
PCM.
repeat for rest of the class what Vaishak is saying. So basically what he is saying is that if your work spans more than one accounting period, then you would want money distributed over different accounting periods. Otherwise, how will you proceed? You will start running out of funds, right? Now that should ideally happen, but it's not necessity. Let us say you and I enter into a deal wherein for some reason, I'm not ready to give you any penny unless 100% work is completed. And you think that it makes sense for you, there is enough profit, and also you think that you have enough money. All I'm saying is that typically this is what you should not see, that no money has been paid, but there can always be a deal where you get the money only when the work gets completed. So that's no point at all. What should be the guiding point? Yeah, anyone else? Go ahead, give your opinion. How do I decide whether to go for completed contract or percentage of completion?
So it depends, like if I can measure percentage of work completed like accurately.
Okay, fine. So very good point that he is mentioning, in fact, Jitendra. So if you can measure the percentage of work completed, then use this. If you can't, use this. Very simple. Can you give us some of the example, or can you imagine some of the example where percentage of work cannot be calculated? I'll show you that how accountants are.
The software development.
Software development. Okay. Go ahead. Elaborate a little bit.
So software development, I said because it's very difficult to measure exactly how many.
Let us leave R&D projects, because R&D projects you are not even sure whether you will get anything at the end of it or not. Ignore R&D. So R&D is a different ballgame altogether. Anything else? You are constructing a bridge. Can you find a way to find how much percentage of work is completed? You're constructing a building. Can you figure out a way? You are, let's say, doing oil exploration. Can you figure out a way? Maybe square kilometers. There are 500 square kilometers that needs to be explored. And in this particular accounting period, let's say I have explored 300 square kilometers of that. So that can work as an estimate. It so turns out that if nothing happens, then all that I will do is I will make an estimate of how much expense am I going to. So basically there will be one estimated expense that I can do. So let's say percentage of work is not given, cost is given, let's say money received is given, then I will make an estimation, that is estimated future cost, in year 1, 2 and 3. Let's say same example that earlier we were given this 30% work here, 40% work here and 30% work here, and cost was, let's say 200 here, 800 here and 1200 here. Money received is some blah blah blah, we don't even care. What we can do is at the end of first year we can make a projection, we can make an estimate that what do we think we will be ending up spending in next 2 years to complete this project. Let's say that estimate comes out to be 1500. Let's say at the end of second year you make same estimation once again. Let's say this time the estimation is 1000 crore rupees. Now we can find out the percentage of work completed. Okay, so let me repeat what am I talking about. This is only in situation where this percentage is not given. That is, this number is not available to us. These numbers are not available to us. In that situation, if current cost and future costs, estimated costs are available to us, then we can make an estimate. How do we make an estimate? We will decide cost already incurred divided by total cost. This will be our estimate of percentage of work done. For example, in year 1, in this example, what we will do, what have you already spent? You have spent 200 crore rupees. This one. And what do you think is going to be the total cost? Total cost is going to be 200 you have already spent, and you think that 1000 further you are going to spend. $200 you have already spent in year 1, and you are going you think that you are going to spend 1500 further in future years. So what are you going to spend total on this project? 200 plus 1500, if your estimates come true, of course. That is an estimation, assumption. Otherwise there is no point in making an estimate. So this itself becomes your percentage of work completed. I think some 11% or something. How much do you get? 2 by 17. Sorry?
11.7.
11.7%, something like this. Similarly, in second year, what? Notice here, my estimate does not even need to come true. For example, I randomly put this number. None of these estimates are actually coming true. But as far as this year is concerned, as far as year 1 is concerned, this is what will be my percentage of work done. Fine. What will be my percentage of work done in second year? Percentage of work done will be again cost divided by total cost. So what have you spent? What have you spent in year 2 so far? You have spent 200 in year 1 and 800 in this year. So far you have spent $1,000. Sorry, 1,000 crores. And what do you think total cost is going to be? So total cost is going to be 1,000 crores you have already spent, and you estimate that 1,000 additional will be spending. So total 1,000 plus 1,000. So basically 1 divided by 2, that is 50% of the work got completed by the end of year 2. And if you know that in third year work got completed, so here no need to do computation, here the percentage becomes 100%.
So I didn't understand how you're generating these total cost figures. In the first year it was 1500 and 200.
These are your estimates. Estimates means that, let's say you are constructing a bridge and you have constructed 3 pillars. Now you want to estimate that how are remaining 7 pillars or 9 pillars going to cost you. Based on what you have already done, you will make a projection.
So So I understood that. I'm just saying this 1500, is it corresponding to the estimated total cost for that first year or for the entire project?
You listen the word estimated future cost means to complete this work. What do you think in year 1 you are going to spend? Let me draw the timeline so that you will understand what am I talking about. Point 0, point 1, point 2, and point 3. This is where the work got completed and I would know everything for sure. But when we are here at this point of time, what do we know? We know already you have spent 200 crore rupees. And now at this juncture, you are making an estimate that what do you think you will be spending on this period? You are just making an estimate. So here you made an estimate that maybe I think the way we are going so far, we will end up spending 1500 additional.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
That 1500 was for the entire project. Then next year the estimate got revised again, lower.
Now, when you reach to second year end, it is not necessary that what you had estimated would come true. Let's say in second year, you already know that 800 has been already spent and you made this estimate once again. So let us say at this point, based on your best estimate, you come across with a number that looking at the way we are going now, it seems that 1000 crore rupees additional would be needed to finish the work in next year. So the timeline is important that at this point, we made the estimate of 1000 crore rupees. At this point, we made an estimate of 1500 crore rupees. ठीक है, timeline समझ में आया? And fortunately for us, at this point itself, we are deciding what should I recognize, revenue or expense. And these estimates need not come true. Why? Because we are willing to live up with the fact that our percentage of completion, the percentage computation may be somewhat off. We are not affected too much by that. Basically, the attempt is that we want to apply the matching concept to the best that we can.
Got it.
Okay. So that is one explanation to the point where somebody was saying that what if the percentage is not even determinable? In most situations, there will be some reasonable basis. For example, let's say you are constructing roads, then square kilometers out of the total mandate. Let's say you are, number of kilometers out of the total mandate. Let's say you are doing oil exploration, then let's say square miles out of the total square miles. That can work as a percentage of work completed. Let's say you are constructing multi-story building, then number of stories completed out of total stories can be an estimate. These estimates need not be 100% accurate, because at the end of the day, everybody understands that these are just estimates. Now, main point here is that if none of these are available, even estimated cost can be used to figure out what is going to be the percentage of work completed. Fine. Chota sa question, lamba sa answer. So what else? How do we decide? How do we decide completed contract versus percentage of completion? Any other point? Come on. No? Okay. Let me tell you. So basically, all we want is we want to ensure point A and point B that we discussed yesterday. That is, we want to know that to what extent seller has done their duty, and we want to know that are we reasonably certain that buyer will fulfill their duties. If both of these points are okay, there is no issue at all, then we can go ahead and adopt percentage of completion method. Okay, let me ask a question. Which of the two methods, CCM or PCM, which one of these is more conservative method?
CCM.
CCM is the most conservative method. This part everybody sees. So if you have any reasons to implement conservatism, then you go to CCM. Otherwise, you can adopt PCM. Basically, what is happening here is that there is a tussle between the matching concept and a tussle between conservatism. In fact, these two concepts are always at loggerheads at each other. Conservatism says that wait until you are more sure, reasonably sure, something sure. Matching says that you should reward the period in which you have generated the resources or you have consumed the resources. You remember the definition of both the concepts? Fine. So by matching concept, ideally we should be using PCM in all the situations. Why? Because it is using PCM that we say that 30% of resource generation happened in this period. So should we not credit the 30% of revenue here? That is what is our matching concept says. Only problem is that in certain situations, conservatism will come into the picture and play a spoil sport. That is, if you have any reasons to believe that either of these are questionable. Let me create an example to illustrate. Let us continue with our example of ONGC taking a drilling project or exploration project. Let us say, as we took the example yesterday, let us say that ONGC has done 70% of exploration so far. But now onward, they require a special machinery which they don't have, and also they are not very sure whether they will be actually getting the machine or not. This means what? That 70% work is done, but they are not sure whether remaining 30% will get completed or not. So here there is a doubt about point A, that whether the work will get completed or not. So in this situation, given this additional information, it is better for this firm to use completed contract method. Why? Because now you have reasons to be conservative. Let me take another example. Let's say the machine is very simple to get. It's very easily available. There is no uncertainty that you will not be able to get the machine. But what has happened is that, let's say, suddenly a tension has built up between, let's say, government of India and government of Philippines, and because of that, let's say you believe that government of Philippines may not pay up. So once again, you have reasons to adopt completed contract. But if everything is smooth, you see that work is progressing smooth, we will be able to complete the work without any hassles, and even though we haven't, but we will be able to on an expectation level, and also we are reasonably certain that the buyers will pay. In that situation, go ahead and adopt percentage of completion.
So
Yeah,
as you were saying this example where suppose there's tension between GOI and government of Philippines.
yeah.
So we finished about, let's say, 50% of the project and incurred.
For this part, I'll come back. You just hold on, Rishabh. So let people assimilate up till this part, that what decides which method we will choose. Okay. One more point I will tell you, and then we will go to the question that Rishabh is asking, is that there is one more situation where even though you are reasonably certain that you will complete the work, and even though you are reasonably certain that buyer will pay, still you can go ahead and adopt completed contract method. When do you do that? You do that in those situations where even though individual contracts are spanning more number of years, but at every given year, you are doing, let's say, a number of such contracts. Let me take an example. Let's say you are DLF, and in every given year, you are, let's say, doing, let's say, hundreds of projects which will span, let's say, 5 years, 6 years, some are spanning 7 years or something. In that situation, even though individual projects may extend more than one accounting period, but for you, the materiality concept kicks in, because you have, let's say, 500-600 of such projects. So every given period, some work is getting completed, some work you are taking fresh, some work is work in progress, some work work in progress status has moved ahead. So what you will do is that, because the individual importance of all of these is going to be small, so you will not break your head in finding out the percentage of completion of all these 500-600 projects. What you will do is, just out of convenience, you will say that, you know, this difference is not material enough for me. So what I will do is, I will only count those projects which get completed in this year. There may be a possibility that those which I have counted in this year, they might be 90% complete to begin the year with, but still you will count all the revenue here. Why? Because in every year things will average out. Why? because you have so many projects going on. So there will be the case that for some project you are using the contribution of previous years in this year. For some cases, you may be ending up using contribution in this year in future, so on and so forth. So things will average out simply because the number is high. ठीक है? समझ आया? So even for this reason, you can go ahead and adopt completed contract method. In fact, in real life, this is more of a reason why people adopt completed contract method. So for big businesses where the contract is extending, but every year you are doing so many projects, so you will not break your head finding out all the completion and then arguing with your accountant that this is what should be the basis of percentage of completion, that is what should be the basis of percentage of completion, so on and so forth. You will just take a simpler route. You will take completion contract, and how you could do that, what concept drives this? The materiality concept drives this.
So I'm not very sure what you said. You said that suppose in period 1 you have 50 projects on past projects, and in period 1 you finish, let's say, 10 projects of that.
Yeah.
But then another 40 projects are going on. So
Yeah.
you will write off only those 10 projects revenue, or
Yes.
you will take for
Yes.
all the 40 projects the.
No, only 10 projects. When the number of projects are high, okay. So in this manner, let's say we already had, let's say, 400 projects going on. Okay, let's say we had 400 projects going on. Okay, of these 400 projects, let's say in this year we completed 100 of them. This year further we took, let's say, 200 new projects, and we worked on all of them. So now there is one option available for me, is that go ahead and find out the percentage of completion in all of the 600 projects, and then find out that what was the contribution of this year. There is a simpler way available to us, that is that only those that I completed this year, I will count it as a revenue. Why? Because percentage difference from one will get adjusted from other project. Why will it get adjusted? Because I have such a huge number of projects going on. ठीक है, समझ आया?
So यहाँ पे then how are you using materiality?
Materiality we are using because this difference that you will be assigning. So basically, let's say in this manner, by completed contract, you would find the profit in this manner. Let's say 3,000 crore rupees versus in year 1, in year 2, let's say 3,800 crore rupees, and so on and so forth. Let's say this is how you found the numbers based on completed contract method. If you adopt percentage of completion, this number is not going to be much different. Let's say instead of 3,000, it is 3,150 crore rupees. Let's say instead of 3,800, it is 3,750 crore rupees. Because the number of projects are so large that this difference is not going to be very meaningful. That is how I am adopting the materiality concept. That things will average out because you have so many projects going on. You have an average, better possibility of averaging out. Okay. Okay. Now coming back to your question that you said initially. So the question he was asking is that let us say we started the, let's say 1, 2, 3, year 1, 2, and 3. Let's say we started by using PCM, percentage of completion method, and things were really good. That I saw that seller responsibility is getting fulfilled very smooth, and also for buyer, I don't have any doubt. Let's say suddenly in the year 2, I found out that something happened with the buyer, and let's say this assumption is no longer true, that we are reasonably certain that buyer will pay up. What do we do then? That is the question. Do we change the method, or do we stick to the same method, or do we do something else? Question, someone can? Now anybody would want to respond to this?
Sir, I think we have to change the method, because
Okay.
that would be right way to indicate.
Okay. Any counter opinion or any point in counter to this?
So you have, as you have said in the first case of account receivable and unearned revenue.
So okay, fine. Account receivable and all that we can adjust. Accounting treatment is not a problem. Are we at a conceptual level? Are we making some mistake here? That is the question. You remember there is a concept called consistency. What did that say? Consistency?
Follow the same method.
One method,
Follow the same method.
whatever the.
Are you not flouting the consistency principle by switching from PCM to CCM in second year? You understand the problem? So this is the reason from where this question is coming. What is the solution to this? Abhi question samajh mein aaya? What is the issue here? What are we facing dilemma with? We are facing the dilemma that situation has changed. Now change situation mandates that because the buyer's credibility has become a question mark, we would want to be more conservative. Now we have two alternatives, PCM versus CCM. Which one of these is more conservative? We say CCM is more conservative. So we want to switch the method. But the problem is that if we switch the method, are we not violating consistency concept is what the dilemma here. So any response to this? Question someone mein aaya?
So can't we just make more provisions for the revenue?
More provisions. Okay, good. Very good. Anything else?
So maybe write off things as a bad debt or something.
Write off things, that is same different aspect of the same point as Jitendra mentioned. Anything else?
So we can't change because already in the second accounting period, in the first accounting period, if we have considered the revenue, and in the second accounting period, we are now saying that there may be the customer is not going to pay. So already in the first accounting period, we have considered the revenue. How can we just adjust that in the second accounting period? So we can't change the PCM to completing CCM.
Okay, so three opinions have come so far that create a provision. One opinion is we can't change. Why? Because 2 years have already passed and you have done something in a particular manner, so you can't go back in history and redo the things. And one opinion was that because the situation has changed, so you need to change. In fact, these are the only three options available with us, and we will see that what can be done. Let me take some numbers and then I will explain. First of all, let us take this point of view that we can't change. I want all of you to do a small exercise to this. What you will see is, okay, I assume, what we will see is,
Sir, just a small request. We have a event at 1:50.
Okay.
Just as a reminder.
Okay, fine. I'll try to wrap up very fast. Okay, good that you reminded. So what we'll do here is that I'll just concise the things just in a hurry now. That one small exercise that I want all of you to do is that go and look, let's say Tata Motors income statement and balance sheet you have seen. So Tata Motors, and for that matter, every company, when they give their income statement and balance sheet numbers, they give it for 2 years. Let's say 2016 and 17 together. When the year 18 comes, then they will give the number of 2017 and 18. Right? So you will see that for Tata Motors, they are reporting the number of 2017s twice. Once in the statement of 2017 and once in the statement of 2018. Right? Go and compare these numbers, only of the same years. Let's say you're talking about sales of Tata Motors in 2017. So यहाँ पे भी sales लिखा होगा और यहाँ पे भी sales लिखा होगा 2017. Similarly, all the other numbers, go and compare these numbers. Are they same? They are for the same year, right? They should be same. Same company, same thing. You will see that in quite a few cases, these numbers will not be exactly same. They will be slightly different. Now, what will be the difference? This difference will primarily be of this reason. That actually, we can change. What we do is that consistency says that you are not free to change the methods. But if situations has changed, remember the consistency when I described it. It doesn't mean that once you have chosen a method, you are stuck with it. It only means that there should be restriction on you to jump the methods over another method. So make sure that you have enough justification And then once you have those justification, make sure that you do enough disclosures. This is one part of the disclosure. So for example, let us say in 2018 you want to use new method. So you will go back and recalculate the 2017 numbers using new method. So this may be one of the reason why you will see that these numbers are different. Okay, that is point number one, that consistency doesn't mean that there is a blanket ban once we have chosen a method. All that it means is that you are not free, 100% free to choose the method with whatever you decide. For example, this cannot be an argument that, okay, this year my contract renewal is coming, let me choose that wala method which will show the company too much profitable company. That is not a justification. But if you think that the concept was point A and point B, that seller and buyer's responsibility should not be doubtful, now this has become doubtful, now you have reasonable grounds to change the method. Okay, so that is an address to point 2 and 3 together, that we can change, but we should make sure that there is reasonable ground. That is one point. Another point is that in certain situations, we may not even need to change even though the situation has changed. For example, let us say I was to receive total 5,000 crore rupees, and let's say I have received 400 crore rupees so far. By the year 2, I am still to receive 4,600 crore rupees. Now, when I say that buyer's obligation has become doubtful, now it can become doubtful in two manners. One is that entire money itself has become doubtful. Let's say some altercation between government of India versus Philippines has happened, and I don't know whether entire money will be received or not. So in this situation, it is better to shift the method itself. But if the amount involved is going to be smaller, now how small is smaller is up to you, managerial discretion. But let us say our dispute with our client is that either they will pay 4,600 crore rupees, or maybe for some part of addition they are not happy with us and they will end up paying us only 4,500. So here your dilemma is only about 100 crore rupees. So in this situation, it may make more sense to create a provision. So you will create provision for expected loss of under recovery, and you will show 100 crore loss. Samajh aaya? When the entire money itself is doubtful, go and shift the method, and you have all the reasons to do so. But give the proper disclosure. When the number involved is smaller, create a provision and just get it done with the way we were creating provision earlier. Fine. So that's all I wanted to give for revenue recognition in this session. We will do 2 more things. So 3 more methods are left out. So that is of production method, and installment method, and delivery method. See the example in the book for installment versus delivery method. We'll look at it tomorrow. And in a similar manner, we will do a small discussion, and then we will go to the case of John Holtz. Okay, so some interesting snippets only we will take as a discussion. So idea is whatever time we spend, we have to finish this topic tomorrow. So that is why I'll be a little bit selective tomorrow. Okay, last round of questions. Anyone quickly? Sab samajh mein aa gaya? 150 what session is this? Sorry, yeah, 150.
Recording share kar dena bas.
Sorry, recordings, yeah, recordings I'll share. What session is there at 150?
The PlaceCom.
PlaceCom, okay, that is the reason why I have come here. ये सब तो ऐसे ही additional है. Accounting से चलता रहता है. Okay then, fine. See you all tomorrow. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
This is